we have to make all these excuses for her? This, like I said, all this was this week was people who said, oh, she ran a flawless campaign. How ridiculous. Or it's sexism, it's racism. This is an old playbook.
Yes, I didn't say any of those things.
I know, but I've heard a lot of these things. And like, I think America's perfectly willing to elect a woman. They just didn't like the last two that were put up.
But the Vice President of the United States is basically shoved in a broom closet for 3.5 years.
I know.
Like, you couldn't.
She was more popular in there.
Yes, well.
I mean, this idea that the idea in a mass media age that 107 days is not long enough to know somebody.
You are way overestimating the American people in terms of what they.
No.
You have someone like Donald Trump has become a universally known, understood, loved by some, hated by others over the course of being omnipresent for 8 years.
MSNBC still can't come to terms with the fact that their beloved Kamala Harris got steamrolled by Trump. Since last November, it's been one long pity-parade excuses, meltdowns, and more excuses. But Bill Maher just barged into their self-pity. Tours, like a wrecking ball, torching MSNBC's worn-out talking points and shaking up their smug media bubble. If you thrive on raw, unfiltered political fireworks, buckle up. This is going to get good.
Democrats need a social media platform, this is for you, John, of their own to combat the Republican influence on Twitter. Well, I mean, I don't know, but Twitter, it's funny, it used to be completely left. Then Elon said, I'm going to take it over, so it's going to be 50-50 right down the middle. He didn't do that. It just switched completely. So I don't know. It's terrible that I think that we have our own media silos. We need places where, like this show, but there's not enough of them, where everybody comes and everybody hears everybody else from all points of view.
The mayor came out swinging, blasting the toxic media silos both sides now inhabit. But here's the kicker. This didn't start on the right. It began when the left seized legacy media, twisting it into a propaganda machine that skewed coverage, buried inconvenient truths, and coddled their favorites. Trump became their ultimate punching bag 24/7's character assassination, while bad news about their chosen candidates vanished. The mayor called it what it is: corrosive, dishonest, and destructive. His demand: restore media spaces where both sides actually debate instead of hiding in echo chambers.
A line from Dave Chappelle, who said at some point how he doesn't know very much about what goes on Twitter because he doesn't go on Twitter because Twitter's not a real place. That's sort of how I feel about Twitter. And Twitter, not only is Twitter not a real place, but it's become a toxic cesspool filled with nothing, not about right, it's not about conservative, it's just filled with misinformation, disinformation, and conspiracy theories. So I would rather not have the left replicate that if that's what's required. I think the deeper question that the question's getting at is that if you look at the data in this election, the amount of reach of all of these alternative, I'm talking about the whole podcast space mostly, but also social media. The interviews that Trump did, not starting with Rogan, but Theo Vaughn and all of these other things he did, incredible reach compared to old mainstream media, right?
Millions of Americans have already caught on. CNN, MSNBC, NPR. They weren't reporting the news, they were running it through a partisan blender. Every Kamala scandal softened, every blunder buried, every opponent painted as a villain. People got fed up with the spoon-fed propaganda and jumped ship to independent voices figures like Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn, who tore the lid off the narrative and spoke straight. These unfiltered platforms didn't just entertain. They smashed the DNC's narrative monopoly and played a major role in putting Trump back in the White House.
You know, the number of people that Kamala Harris reached by going to talk to Brett Baer is a tiny fraction of, if you look at the average, not just the number of downloads, but then the social media plays on YouTube and other places that Trump did by hitting all of those mostly bro-friendly, skewing young male podcast platforms. I think the issue is not so much that the left, quote, needs a platform. There are a bunch of people on, Harris went on Call Her Daddy, right? All the Smoke, a few of those things. What the left has to, what Democrats have to figure out is the fact that the way to talk to voters who are not our age, and the large swelling number of the segment of young voters and middle-aged voters, is that they have to start talking to them on platforms that are not 60 Minutes and Fox News or MSNBC or any of these, I hate to say it, dying legacy media platforms.
You could see the discomfort all over Hillerman's face as he fumbled and tiptoed around admitting legacy media's bias against Trump. It was the closest I've seen anyone from inside that bubble even brush against the truth, though still wrapped in soft, careful language, like he was afraid to upset his newsroom. Sensing blood in the water, the mayor cut through the fluff and dropped a blunt question that blew the conversation wide open, forcing the kind of honesty the media elite has spent years dodging.
Way of saying that Twitter is real.
Well,
the internet is real. Somebody just wrote a big article about this. Like,
well,
that is where reality
real.
is now, and this is perfect for the movie you're going to do.
Then Hillerman smugly brushed off Twitter as not a real place, calling it a cesspool of conspiracy theories. Funny, he had no problem with that cesspool when the left ran it, using it as a megaphone for disinformation and censorship dressed up as fact-checking. The hypocrisy is staggering. His sudden moral outrage isn't about cleaning up social media, about losing the power to control it.
I side with Sarah about this one thing. If you're the sitting vice president for a president who has, throughout his entire term in office, been sitting at about somewhere between a 35 and 40% approval rating. People view the Biden administration as a failure. We can have a long discussion about whether they are right about that, about the economy, but the perceptions of the economy were that people thought inflation was too high, people thought we were on the wrong track, 75% wrong track numbers, and this huge inflation overhang. You're the sitting vice president, and you get put on elevated to the top of the ticket 107 days ahead of the election. I think that is a very high degree of difficulty to put on anybody. And I do not think she is the perfect candidate. I tend to agree with Sarah that probably in a fully litigated primary, she probably would not have been the Democratic nominee, but we'll never know that. But I will tell you that, there's never been anybody who's had the difficulty of that situation, elevated that late in the campaign. Why?
Hillman kept tossing around the word perception, like Americans are too clueless to notice their wallets shrinking. As if doubling grocery bills and record-high gas prices under Biden were just some optical illusion. Inflation hit a 40-year high, mortgage rates spiked, wages lagged, and small businesses choked. Yet from inside his media bubble, Hillman claimed, "It was all in our heads." That's not just out of touch, insulting. When your fridge is empty and your bills keep piling up, you don't need a pundit to explain reality.
The United States is basically shoved in a broom closet for 3.5 years.
I know.
You couldn't.
She was more popular in there.
Yes, well.
I mean, this idea that in a mass media age, that 107 days is not long enough to know somebody.
You are way overestimating the American people in terms of what their ability. No. You have someone like Donald Trump has become a universally known, understood, loved by some, hated by others over the course of being omnipresent for 8 years.
In the end, her closing argument fell flat. It didn't connect. It didn't inspire. And no amount of media spin could save her. That's the reality. If you liked this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and stick around. There's plenty more coming.